Hi everybody, it's Allison Doran coming to you from my little studio here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And in front of me, you'll see my 2025 Artist Almanac fodder calendar. This is a collage calendar, and there's a list of contributing artists on the back of this calendar. And for those of you that might be interested in purchasing this calendar, they're usually available, I think, in November. So it's January now, but this November, if you connect with any of these artists, my connection is this beautiful mixed media artist out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, Christine Karpiak. And I'll put her name underneath the link for the Facebook page for this group. And that's a good way to kind of be notified as to when you could get your hands on one of these calendars for yourself. So these pages, you can use them as what's called collage fodder. I didn't know what fodder was until probably last year when I was taking some collage classes and was actually taking some courses through fodder school. And I still can't tell you the exact definition, but it's, I think, anything that kind of be collaged on, a material that can be collaged onto something. And that's just a really vague description. But where am I going with this? So if you're not currently following me or subscribed to my channel, maybe this is your first time watching. My videos are unedited and very random art inspiration, just kind of what's coming to me in the moment. And I really like this calendar. This is the second year in a row that I've purchased the calendar. And this page is a beautiful piece. So today's Thursday, July 9th. But I didn't do a video with you all yesterday, and I just love the colors in this mixed media collage snapshot here. And what I'm going to do is open up this is my new collage booklet. I'll give you a little backstory about this booklet shortly, but I just want to show you what I'm working in. So this is my Canson fluid mixed media, 154-pound paper. So this is very different from what I work on in my other videos with you all. Typically, I work on watercolor paper, and this is the one you're probably familiar with if you've been following me. It's the Canson watercolor paper in 140 pounds. So this is the weight I like to work on for the type of work I do. This is maybe gonna come into play in my video today. I'm not too sure. I'm just sort of using it as a clean backdrop. And this paper it has sort of a feel of Bristol paper. I really enjoy doing collage on something called Bristol paper, and this has been just a dream to work on so far. So this is, again, Canson fluid mixed media, and it's a coil book, which I really enjoy working in. There's a micro perforated edge, and so if I want to tear out the page, which eventually I probably will, or at least on some of the pages have that option that I can just fold on the perforated edge and tear it out and use it for a future work. This is also, it's 154 pounds. And what else can I say? It has 30 pages. I think I'll fill it up pretty quick. And I intentionally bought this to do fluid mixed media. So to use my fluid acrylics and my other mixed media supplies. But this was sitting on my bookshelf and it was just calling my name to do collage in. So now that you know what I'm working in, I am gonna collage over this cover. I love to do collage on the front and back of my watercolor coil books, almost to make them a lot more pretty to look at, and it's just kind of fun. So I am just gonna go back to my plan for today. Well, first I'm going to show you, this is a page that I did last evening, and I was really tired, but I crave creating every day some kind of painting or you know, it can be just watching an art video or flipping through an art magazine, maybe watching a documentary about artists. I like to just do something creative, otherwise I feel like I'm going to implode. So last evening I was really tired, but I really wanted to work with my hands. So I was able to start this collage page, which I did leave a little bit of space here, and I'm fine with that because there was really no rhyme or reason to how I was collaging onto this page. It was just a matter of having this large Tupperware of way too many papers that I've collected over time. So again, if you've been following me, you know I've been doing a lot of collage art. Just this past year, I released a collection which was all these little collages called the Purposeful Paper Collection, and I made pretty well all of those papers that were in those artworks. So you can imagine, and I have a tendency to collect things, unfortunately. Unfortunately for my husband, who probably would do more weeding than I would. But I'm gonna just pull out, I mean, this is just sort of a pile of papers, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. And I found it quite overwhelming last evening because there's a part of my brain that wanted to, well, first I wanted to organize these papers in terms of color, value, texture, you know, ones that I may use for, say, a future piece. So I have a whole bunch of large acrylic canvases, works in progress, and, you know, I wanted to kind of sort out what I would use for those particular canvases and what I might just use in an art journal. But I was really, I think, paralyzed by the amount of choice. So just feeling like and to storage of all of these papers, I was able to somehow kind of reroute that thinking, because again, I was just looking at this page and kind of paralyzed in where to start. And I just decided to go with it and turn off that voice that was holding me back, because it wasn't gonna, you know, say turn out to be a finished piece, or it wasn't a piece that would be purposely placed in an artwork that eventually I might sell. So, you know, when I'm sitting down to create in a way that's relaxing and mindful, it's very different than when I create a painting that I plan to sell. So for instance, I was able to turn off that opinionated voice in my head and just grab this Yoo-hoo stick. It's a cute name, Yoo-hoo. It's a glue stick made in Germany, and it's non-toxic, nature-based. I'm not sure what that means. 98% nature-based, so not sure where the other 2% comes from. It's washable, it's acid-free. So you know what? I'm not planning on selling the work I'm doing in this book, and if I did, it probably would still hold up just as well as some of the other glues out there. But that is just my mind taking me down this road of, you know, I know that this golden matte medium, which I am more comfortable collaging with, probably has a lot more holding power, you know, lasting power, but it's an it's an investment in terms of, well, finances. But I just needed something that was not too messy, because I do have a 7-year-old who loves to do stuff with me when we're home, and I wanted to just be able to get some supplies out and not worry about mess and organization. And anyways, so I'm really needing to kind of focus my mind here. But when I was able to turn off that voice that kept saying, you know, oh, it would be good if we could use, you know, say, for instance, I can give you an example. I've been doing a lot of collage work with these botanical leaves and flowers, and actually I can show you, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just zoom you out. Nope, that's back in. I'm going to bring a really large canvas that I've been working on. See if I can bring it under you guys. give you an example of what I've been up to, sort of off camera. So I've been working on this really large canvas, and it's so big in terms of my camera view, but you can just see, you can see I probably have paint on my khaki pants here, but this is the bottom, and then I'll just kind of work you up to the top. This is Collage. It's from a very specific paper that I've been playing with, painting on, and trying to figure out some really neat techniques. And this paper, it was really thin, almost like tissue paper, a deli paper of sorts. And I was able to see almost like an upside down tulip. So I love how this tulip kind of formed in this pattern where I had placed the ink on this paper. I can't actually remember what kind of paper, but it was very, very thin. And this tulip I wanted to emphasize because I just thought, wow, that's so cool that it had just appeared. So that would be a paper that if I had in my collection, I wouldn't just want to use in my art journal because I could see a lot of potential in it. And that's the same with this area here. So yesterday I had collaged on, you can see this botanical. Now both of these were leaves and botanicals. I think that this was some kind of a flower that when I went on a nature walk this summer, I had, or just before, I'm sorry, just in the fall, before winter hit, I thought I'm just gonna go for a walk in this nearby park and grab some leaves, botanicals, flowers that are dying and that are otherwise going to be covered in snow, and just see what I can do with them. And I remember a lot of them were quite dry. I live in, well, it seems damp right now, but usually Calgary is quite dry. And anyways, this was a collage paper, this big black painted paper with this true botanical. This is a botanical from nature, and I would love to know what botanical it was. It almost looks like I have a leaf over top, but this is just so beautiful, and I feel like it really pulled this painting together. I did want to mention I'm trying to do more writing. So as a creative, I'm much more comfortable with visual arts, and I just wanted to say I am starting a blog, an authentic blog, where I think my first 2 entries, I was encouraged to try AI by a friend she's wonderful. She's such a smart person and is really great for advice. But we started to play around with AI, and okay, I'm just gonna move this so you're not looking at this painting. But I felt like what AI came up with, yes, it sounded pretty good. The grammar was, of course, right on par, but it just wasn't me. And no matter how much I edited the version from AI, it just didn't feel authentic. So I decided to start blogging. My first blog entry, I think, was yesterday, and I did another one this morning. And if you're interested in what I do and my videos, I will see if I can put a photo of this canvas I just showed you and sort of up close of the textures that I've been working on, and I'll put that in my blog. So I'm kind of veering away from, I've always been fairly active on Instagram up until the last couple months, but I'm just really not enjoying social media at this time as much, and I have this goal of writing. And so anyways, I just wanted to let you know that I'm hoping to do more blogging, maybe vlogging. I know there's people that do video blogging, vlogging, and I think that's really a cool concept. So just looking into some different things, but I think the blog is a really good spot to put sort of those extras, little bits about my day that maybe I wouldn't share necessarily in a video or on camera. And my blog is almost that kind of sneak peek behind the scenes of things that I want to share without doing it in this format. Okay, but that brings me back to this leaf. So I really was cherishing these precious little leaf patterns that I got after, you know, spending the summer of really trying to zero in on the skill of getting botanicals in a collage format on a substrate that I loved. So maybe sometime I will teach that. I'm gonna probably try and get really good at it myself before I teach it. But I wanted to share that I had this pile of collage papers, and I think I had that worry of, oh, well, what if there's something like this in there and I just don't want to use it because it might look really good in my art. And that's kind of a limiting belief and thought. And so I just decided to turn that off and get rid of that thinking and just go with what I was feeling in the moment, cutting up papers, putting them down. And this is what I had come up with. I was starting to work on this particular spread as well. And just before I talk about that, and we do one of these together, I'm just going to, actually this would look amazing with what I've started here. So it's just about going with your gut instinct and not overthinking something. So, you know, if I come across a grocery list, or I have these mind maps all over because I love doing mind maps instead of linear fashion to-do lists. And it's sort of how I plan my life, my days, my creativity. It keeps me organized for the most part. And I'm just gonna put this in a way that feels interesting, which is actually just like this. And I think in my recent video, I said that I'm not a huge fan of collaging on with this type of glossy material that came in this fodder calendar. But I have to admit, now that I just put this piece on, I quite like it. And I think it just felt like kind of like a plasticky piece of paper. And what I love is just more of that kind of, how do you say, you know, the not yet reproduced painting and the texture that comes with, you know, fresh paint and just mark making on paper. I love the feel of some of these Japanese or these Nepalese papers. So that's this one I had purchased at the art store. That's a very, very beautiful paper right here. I love that aqua and then the gold. And what I'm going to do right now is just while you're looking at, say, I'll just bring back, oh, I know, I can show you. So this is what kind of I had done a few months ago when I was sort of in that same mindset of just wanting to relax and incorporate colors, textures, mark making I love, painted papers that I have come to love with time, and just putting them all together in sort of a random fashion without thinking too much. If I was smart, I may have set a timer. I know that some artists say, you know, if you can give yourself a time limit and, you know, just if you have a new brush and a new set of watercolors, just give yourself, you know, even just 5 minutes or 8 minutes and put the timer on and just work as fast as you can, because it keeps you out of your head. It keeps you from overthinking things. Possibly that's why I like doing these YouTube videos, because I'm always amazed at the things that I create and the results from sort of working not so much under pressure, but just, you know, I'm so focused on the videography and the content that I'm not really overthinking the decision making in a design sense. So my art on camera is still quite different than my art off camera, and that's just the way it is. Even if I try, it's just a very different feeling when you're working on camera versus off, at least for me. What I want to do is, well, I'm excited because we have these fodder calendar from the Artist Almanac calendar. I'll show you the front of it if you're new to my channel. This is the front part that was already torn off, the 2025 Artist Almanac, a collage fodder resource and daily calendar. And normally it would be something I wouldn't want to like rip off. I'd like to just keep it all nice as is. But then down the road, I would think, well, you know, this probably could be used for a different purpose. So I really appreciate that someone had said the obvious in my last video or a few videos ago, just saying, you know, this is collage fodder. You can put these into collage. I'm just seeing how nice those colors are together. And so I'll just do like a little flip through of an example of some of the days, the inspiration that we have just passed. This is a great example of more neutral collage fodder, which I like to incorporate with my brights just to make those brights stand out. So, you know, looking at this brown paper bag where I had done mark making with the tip of one of my acrylic brushes and then did the dots over the top, I mean, just a really good neutral, because if I let myself go, this would be a rainbow of beautiful color. And that's okay, but I think it appeals to me more later on down the road when I was to, you know, walk by it in a frame, or if, say, I mounted this to a wood panel, which I like to do. You know, if I looked at it later, it just wouldn't kind of scream at me, you know, to be joyful. It would just be something that would feel more calming. I'm gonna set our calendar pages aside. And I think what I'm gonna do is I just started the Little Frog's Guide to Self-Care, which is 52 affirmation cards for self-love and empowerment. And this is by Maybell Eequay. So I'm gonna link this little card deck in the description. This was the one that we pulled, was it yesterday or the day before? The day before, I think. And such a sweet card. I have the little holder. Actually, my mom's photo is in the holder that's over on my shelf, so I'm not going to get the holder, but it came with a really cute wooden holder. So this is the front side of the cards, and these are much more easy to shuffle compared to my art poetry card deck. And I have not gone through these cards really, other than on videos, so these are fresh, hot off the press, and let's see what we get. Today I will find, I'm just gonna zoom you in a bit. Today I will find the sweetness in the little things. Such a gorgeous card. And you know what's funny is I'm just seeing this as part of my love of pinks and reds and texture. And you know, I just see that this pink is like, it could be part of the flower, couldn't it? And just the mark making on the little mushroom hat, and you know, just how it's so fitting in here. And so the sweetness I found last evening in doing something that normally would cause me to feel a little bit more pressured, I was able to catch myself and change kind of my behavior in a way that made me let go and started, you know, to put down collage in a way that I really loved. And I think I found so much calm and relaxation in the process. And I enjoyed it so much that when I was finished that one page, I had, just before bed, I had taken my art upstairs with me and put it at my bedside, and had even taken some of it and I put it where I would wash my face at night and brush my teeth, just so I could see in the reflection of the mirror the art. And what was really kind of cool, I'm just gonna move this card over here. What was really interesting to me, I mean, there's so many things that I find interesting and want to share. As you know, if you're a regular here. Okay, there we go. but in the distance, in the reflection of the bathroom mirror, instead of seeing, so this was, I think it was from a coloring book, this black and white page right here. And I think those are ginkgo leaves. I'm not sure if I have the right name, but just some really artsy line work that looks like ginkgo leaves. But when I had this in the reflection in my mirror and I saw it from a distance, I actually could see, when I squinted my eyes, I could see a butterfly here, a black butterfly, and also one here, just partly covered, and then also one below with the polka dots. And then I had to like look closer because I'm like, I never saw that from close up. So, you know, it was just really neat to put this art as though it was a piece that I was working on or hoping, you know, to eventually list and sell. That is my process, is to put it on the wall, even if it's not done, or if I finish for the day, I put it up somewhere where I can see it. And as the lighting changes, as the sun goes down, you will see the light hit, say, a shimmery metallic area differently than maybe before. Or, you know, if you put this in a different orientation, you may just decide, wow, I really love how this flower just pops out now that it looks like someone's holding it downward. Or, you know, maybe you just like more grounding with like darker colors, more texture at the bottom. So just seeing things differently. And I think the process of letting go, I mean, anytime we can just let go of control and go with what deep down in our heart we feel, there is this sweet spot, and it can be so hard to capture that. But I feel like I captured it last evening, and I enjoyed it so much that this morning I started to do another page. I also went through this huge pile of papers and just felt the need to like reuse them, repurpose them. And so when I show you this book, this was an image that when I was taking one of Cathy Nichols' classes. Cathy Nichol is a wonderful mixed media artist out of Asheville, and I know she's in the process of rebuilding part of her studio, not her home studio, but her main studio was hit by the hurricane in Asheville. So there's a lot of I'm kind of sidetracking about Cathy Nichols, but she's sort of rebuilding from that. And actually that brings me to, I want to show you something actually. That's a really good chance for me to introduce her true colors. So Cathy, I'm not paid by Cathy. She only knows me as a student probably, and from social media. But I do like to promote artists that have really inspired me. And but these little cards, so after the hurricane, I just thought it would be great to support her, take some of her classes. And she did these true colors acrylic paint mixing flashcards for artists. And it's like, she calls it color theory in a box. And these are wonderful to hold, and they have stunning colors. And on the back, she actually shows how to mix the color. And, you know, these will really come in handy for my videos. That's a really pretty one, that grapefruit. And how fitting, the grapefruit here. And I just noticed this collage sheet that I was hoping to add into my page with you all it's very much that color, which is a color I enjoy a lot. So I can link these true color cards and also Cathy Nichols' website. But it's just sort of a fun way to kind of flip through, you know, if you're staring at a blank page and you pick some cards, just deciding, you know, what speaks to you in the moment. And this is a really lovely gift for the artist or the creative in your life. such gorgeous cards. And this is something too, if there's one that really speaks to you, you can put it up in one of those little mini frames, those magnetic frames. Okay, so that's how I sidetracked it. It happens a lot. So just a warning for you all if you're new to my channel. I love to go down different roads and pathways. So this again was from a course I had taken through Cathy Nichols, but I had already used it. I had created a painting with this gorgeous sunflower and I had sold it, and I just came across this printout and I thought, well, wouldn't this be just a beautiful printout? I put the date, today's date, and just some ideas that they are not in a mind map format, I'm just realizing, but I think it was just easier to read this way than a big mind map over my sunflower. But I had this idea of bookmarks. So I've already talked about mounted collages, how this process, which I'll do with you all today, it's been a half an hour and I'm not there yet, but I will get there. Also, the primary reason I wanted to share this exercise in collage is relaxation and finding sweetness in finding a place where you're truly calm and finding joy and happy and feeling like you're tapping into that authentic artist. You know, everybody is a creative. Everybody has this artist within them, and by, you know, turning off any part of your brain that wants to make it a challenge, you know, I just feel like I should just get started. But I had this idea of, well, when I'm finished this, yes, it's great. I've repurposed all of these papers. Yes, I enjoy looking at it, but there's so much more than that. There are memories in here. I remember when I was maybe doing certain classes. I remember when I, you know, grabbed some brown paper bags and was trying this mark making. I remember cleaning off my watercolor brush with you all on this 90-pound watercolor paper. And now I have these beautiful watercolor, almost swatches in this collage. I love texture. I love smushing acrylic paint together to get these really interesting textures. And there's so much in here. I mean, if I just needed inspiration one day and I was staring at a large canvas, I could pull this out and just almost in a viewfinder format, find an area that I loved and then zero in on whether it's the colors or the shapes or the mark making. And if I didn't care for this, that brings me to also mention that Cathy Nichol, the way she does a lot of her mixed media art, she's primarily an acrylic mixed media artist, but she does collage as the base under most of her paintings. So if she had a wood panel, she would just cover everything with, you know, magazine images and painted papers, very much this idea. And then she would paint over it and leave sometimes very little, and then other times leave a lot more. But this is, I mean, I think of, we've been doing landscapes lately. I would love to take some acrylic paint and just turn this into a landscape. The other thing, which was on my little sunflower list on the other side, was to turn this into a bookmark. So this is a little bookmark that my printer made for me of some of my artwork. And this is my painting. I'll just see how close you guys are. This is the top part is planting seeds of lemonade. And then this is so tiny, but this one's There Are Brighter Days Ahead, an art poetry painting. This one is Let's Fly Together, my little birds in the bouquet. And then the bottom one was one of my gratitude art poetry paintings. But, you know, getting a feel for, you know, how wide would you want your bookmark, and just going along and cutting bookmarks and using them, you know, if you are gifting something to a friend, or, you know, if you are selling your work, you know, just popping in one of these original little bookmarks. That's a pretty neat a way to kind of accentuate a gift. So let's just, I'm gonna just go back to, maybe I could go back to this page. And so we have, again, I just feel like it's so funny today that I would pull this card, because those are like a, what is that yellow called? It's, I think it's like a sulfur yellow. I don't know if that's right. There's a certain name for that kind of neon greenish yellow, almost like a green gold, but really bright. And I was just, before I had filmed, putting down some collage pieces with that same color. And I love the reds and the pinks, and just such a sweet little card. I feel like the frog could get lost in this little landscape. And so this video is for you if you have a whole bunch of, you know, tissue paper, wrapping paper, maybe old journals where you have captured, you know, to-do lists. You know, there was a video I had done where, this is just an example, I was creating colored papers. Now this is a torn off cover from my Strathmore watercolor book that was 18 by 24 inches. It was really large, but I was probably cleaning off my acrylic paint on here. And at one point I just decided I wanted a whole bunch of red to at some point be able to tear off and maybe use in a collage landscape. So again, another paper I can see, which is so interesting. I have this really subtle stencil on the back, and then on the other side I've completely covered it up with just cleaning my brush. And there was a whole video I did where we went through pretty much the rainbow and we grabbed some paper. This is, I believe, 90-pound paper. So thinner paper is nicer. It's a little bit easier to collage on, especially if you're using a glue stick or even a matte medium. If you're collaging on a thicker paper, which I've been known to do, you would really want more like, I mean, something like this, or a matte gel, so something thicker. I really like Yes Paste when I do super thick collage pieces. Sometimes I collage on something that's called Yupo paper, which is similar to Bristol paper, maybe a bit thicker. But if you have all of these papers and you just are feeling like you don't want to toss them out, you can't really recycle them because they have paint on them, you know, how are you going to revisit them in a way that makes you feel sort of happy? And I think this is a really great process. So you could get a sharp ruler and just tear off collage pieces, or I've just been using my scissors. These are my dollar store Betty Crocker scissors, and you just want to do whatever keeps it really simple for you. So let's just go to this page and decide, and I can't remember where I was going to put this. I think it was on the other page. I'm gonna just take you guys. So if you are working alongside me, I mean, you could work on the back of a cereal box, or you could work on any type of paper that has a little bit more heft to it. And I'm just seeing that this really textured piece of where I was cleaning my brush, or possibly, I'm not sure what I was doing. Sometimes when my palette is drying on my I dab up the paint and let it dry instead of kind of letting that paint go to waste and drying up. I feel like just looking at this, I do want to incorporate these colors into this black and white spread. So this was just practicing spontaneous line drawing. I think I was trying some contour drawing, and then I wanted to continue the black line just for a cool effect. So, you know, turning this into a mark making opportunity, not just collage. So just, you know, adding in this line work here to make it look like you're not sure, you know, what's underneath what. I really like to add the little polka dots. So this is my fine Posca paint pen, and I don't like to do polka dots everywhere, but I know on these little paint marks that I made probably in the last year on this painted paper, I really like the polka dots over top. So when you get into the process of just gluing things on, you start to see things differently. You start to generate ideas. And at the very least, you're just in a place of relaxation and play. And sort of like that card I pulled the other day is tapping into that childlike sense of wonder. And I did remember that quote by Picasso, and it was something along the lines of, if only we could keep that childlike, you know, sense of wonder, paint like when we were kids as adults. If only we could do that, we would become such incredible artists. If you check out my blog, I am reading a new book on, I think it's like How Painting Happens and Why It Matters. So that's the title. It's a really, really thick book, but I've enjoyed it so much. And I'm just realizing I'm gonna get a little bit of water on a paper towel because I'm gonna get messy here. Even though it's my glue stick, I get pretty messy. And I used a piece of like wax paper or parchment paper. At one point I was using it for a palette, and I was just gluing around the edges just so I wouldn't get it all over my table. And this is quite a big, thick piece. I know if I was using matte medium, I would spritz the back of it to get it a little bit wet, and then I would put it down. And I definitely underestimated the size, so I'm just gonna cut it and then add a little bit more glue. And you know, if at some point in the future you want to almost, how do you say, like finish your work or protect it, there's different things you can do. You can use like a cold wax medium and buff it on, like the Dorland's wax medium, and that is often used to protect watercolor and acrylic paintings. The only thing with that is you want to make sure you don't have any oil-based paint or oil-based paint pens in your work, because the wax, when you go over top, it will just disintegrate that product. And so, you know, you can use, or you can test out, you know, things like if you use mostly acrylics, you could try, I don't like the spray varnishes because I feel like they're not as good for the environment. They're quite toxic, even if you do it properly and proper ventilation. So I kind of do it the hard way, and I do brush on varnishes. And then you could put sheets, like almost like those sticker sheets or those wax sheets in between the pages, just to protect the pages and prevent them from sticking. So you can see I really like the line drawing, and I just wanted to kind of continue that over top of this collaged piece. And then this little extra, I suppose it would look just nice down there. So without thinking too much, I'm gonna just add that in. And so if you have magazines at home, or some kind of, again, maybe you just, you know, you like to keep a journal in just a plain paper book. I know my mom does that. And, you know, those pages, just, you know, from printer paper, those are great too, just to use to collage in. Maybe, you know, over the holidays, you have some extra gift wrap or tissue paper, and that can be pretty awesome to reuse. It's also a beautiful memory of possibly where it came from and who gave you the gift. And so speaking of that, I have this really pretty light blue tissue paper, and I think it would be interesting going over top of some of the flower, not all of it. And so instead of tearing it though, I'm just gonna cut it. So it depends what look you're going for, but I feel like I really like the look of that as well, going over top of this acrylic mark making. And so I'm just gonna glue that on. Now I think with a glue stick, it's a bit trickier to glue tissue paper because it can tear. So I'm just gonna go really gently. And so with all of these painted papers and collected papers I feel like this process, I mean, I could do it every day, all year. And I think mentally it would make me feel good before I create new papers, because I do have this love for creating painted papers and experimenting, and there's so much adrenaline and joy and fun that comes from creating something that was never there to begin with, and kind of like figuring out what lights you up. I feel like that went a bit too far, so I'm just gonna cut it off and use a bit of water to get that glue off. But I really like the tissue paper look in the art. You could always, you know, if you're thinking maybe down the road, you might want this to be eventually a tear off collage piece that, say, you could frame even just part of it. You know, if I have this little extra piece of tissue, and I might just put that up in the corner, because I know that in my work I like cohesive design elements. I know that I like to repeat things that I maybe enjoyed or had discovered. So I'm just gonna add that up in the corner. Oh, and there is another project I was working on and I wanted to share with you. So what I'm gonna do is I'll just leave this here. Has a lot of interest to look at, and I'm gonna pull a card from my art poetry deck. And then funny to see that also this painting, this watercolor painting, where I had put the word quiet, that's my signature, but the word quiet's up there. This color palette is so much, you know, the black and white, the beautiful greens and turquoises, and that light blue, which is so much like this tissue paper as well. You can see that burnt rose from the Ocean Paper Watercolor Company, that gorgeous coral color. Just gonna see, I do have that here. I really love this burnt rose color, and it's just interesting to see that this is an intuitive collage background, but it does incorporate colors and marks that I really enjoy, even though it's a very different style. So in here you can see I have gray as my neutral, and then there's the gray as well. And, and then what I'm gonna do is just pull a card, and I'm going to go and get this project I wanted to share with you. And this is my, this is a girl that I had painted around the time when the war broke out in Ukraine, and she was one of the girls where I was selling her as a print and fundraising, specifically to animals in need over in Ukraine. And there is a story about how the mothers of soldiers would would put sunflower seeds in the pockets of the soldiers, and when the soldiers were later found, something about the seeds would be planted, the sunflowers would be planted in an area where the soldiers may have lost their life. I'm not explaining that really well. I'd have to look it up to, you know, really give you the kind of the thought behind the title of this painting. But I felt like I used the color of sunflowers in the background of this painting. And it's just funny, so thinking about a sunflower, but all of these colors are very much what you would see in a sunflower. And I was thinking at the time, I title my art based on my relationship with creativity. So I was thinking about that story about the soldiers and their family members, and how the sunflower is I think it's called the national flower of the Ukraine, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the title just was so easy for this card, Plant Seeds of Joy. So, you know, trying to plant things that you enjoy and ideas that you get excited about. And I just think of creativity as constantly planting these seeds and growing with them and sharing them. And I'm just gonna go get that project. So because a lot of you I know subscribe to my channel and follow me, I do like to share some of the projects that we've been working on and show you any changes that I may have made. So I don't know if you remember what this looked like before. Ideally, if I was to continue this blog, I thought it would be kind of neat to show the before and after of some of my paintings that we were working on. But this painting was very much all about me playing with a new brush, a new angular brush. And I think I had done the video, I'm just gonna bring you guys up a little bit. I think I had done the video last week. But I wanted to show you the areas that I didn't enjoy as much. I had painted over with acrylic. You can see that white paint, some of it's a bit more gray because it picked up that black permanent pen and it kind of smudged. But what I had done is, while I was going through this process of collage, I had found this, so this is an example here. I mean, this is 90-pound paper, and I think I had just turned it upside down and put it over top of my palette at the time. And you get such interesting, beautiful textured marks. This would be a really gorgeous leaf for something. And maybe I'll just cut that out while I'm talking about it. But I had all of this like acrylic textured paper that was lightweight enough to collage on, and this happened to be toned paper, so it's that kind of brown tone paper, but this is all collage. And right up here, and so this is just, again, taking something that we were playing with. We were doing all of this watercolor with the angle brush that we were just experimenting with. We were doing some etchings, so those little bird footprints, and that was the inspiration I had from my morning walk with Oakley, those little bird footprints in the snow. So we did those, etched them in, but I still wasn't really feeling excited about this piece. And so when it came time to do collage, I just thought, wow, I really could see collage working in here. So I'm not finished, but I really like certain kind of, you know, if I was, again, to cut this out and mount it to a wood panel, I see a lot of beauty, especially with this piece down here. And I just wanted to share that with you all. I'm just planting some seeds, that's all I'm doing. And I'm gonna just start back with some collage. This would be interesting, actually, collaged right on top. Okay, so where are we? I said bookmarks, we talked about mounted collage. Memories, how, you know, this process would evoke memories of when you painted these papers or maybe unwrapped a gift from the wrapping paper. Primarily doing it for relaxation. I talked about how Cathy Nichol does her landscapes over top of collage with acrylic paint. Oh, and I had an idea that I forgot. So next year's notebook, I thought it would be just so cool. Right now I'm just gonna glue this on because I think it would be interesting. And you're gonna just spritz the back, or I'm just gonna, my spray bottle's not working great, so I'm just gonna use a little bit of water on the back. And I don't know actually if water and glue stick works the same as matte gel and a glue stick. Probably not, but I'm just gonna put that right on here for fun. And when I went to grab that painting I just showed you, it was under a whole bunch of books. And so I had to lift up all these heavy books, and that is something I like to do if I've been working on collage, especially if I'm just using a glue stick. Kind of bend the paper there really to get it to stay on. But we'll go back to what we were working on. So say this is a particular spread. I had just started putting some papers down, and I'm feeling already that I want to repeat that tissue paper in this area. And I just noticed that I had a little bit of this pattern that I like. You know, so if you have, like me, a whole bunch of these papers and you're thinking, where do I start? If they're not yet organized in any rhythm, I mean, hopefully they are, because, you know, that can be fun too, is organizing them in like file folders or in big Tupperwares. My Tupperware is way too big. It's really deep. I should probably try and invest in a flat one. But if you feel kind of like overwhelmed, it's just grabbing a few. So maybe just, I don't know, six or seven different pieces of what you feel like. And as you get collaging, you'll start to kind of want maybe different colors, maybe incorporating new colors. And I'm not really thinking about shapes, but I'm learning a bit about myself in the process that I often put on shapes that are rectangular. I'm trying to kind of not put everything in the same direction. So these are both going horizontal. I might just put this one, just kind of squinting my eyes, I might just put it actually up over here for now. That paper bag glues on really nicely because it's a very thin paper. If you don't have painted papers, I'm impressed. I saved so much. But if you don't have any, making them is so much fun. And you can, you can, even if you don't feel like making papers, I know there's creatives on Etsy, or, you can go to creatives that like sell, say, old ledger paper or music notes, or if you go to a place where maybe you can get an old dictionary. I've been trying to ask my family members to look for old, you know, thesaurus or dictionary in their house, and those pages are great. Plus they have the inspiration of words. So you have like a French English dictionary, or learning, if you were learning a different language, you know, Spanish, or I say Spanish because that's what I would have, but I mean, okay, so I'm squinting my eyes and I'm really loving the way this is looking. And we're at an hour mark, I see. And I'm gonna just keep going on this. And I just thought this was a stencil as well as some smushed black paint. Excuse me, it's so funny. I was looking for a mute button. I have a bit of a laugh to myself because I was like, I know I'm gonna sneeze, and I've never sneezed on video, and I was looking for a mute button, and of course you can't do that, I don't think. I don't have any knowledge about that kind of stuff with video recording. That's why I don't edit. I don't like that technical stuff and the time it takes, but I was looking for the mute and I realized there's no mute. And I'm just gonna put this down at the bottom, but also keep some of that pink because I like the pink. And I also wanted to share, I think I was in junior high or high school, but whichever it was a stage when you feel so vulnerable as a human, and anyways, I was in class and I needed to sneeze, and it was super quiet in the classroom. I think we were working on a project or a test, and I tried to hold in my sneeze because I just didn't want to sneeze, but I held it in, and then I ended up sneezing, and it came out as the most ridiculous, muffled sound, and it was loud. And I think I kind of laughed, or I breathed funny after, and I will never hold in a sneeze again because everybody looked at me, and I can't remember if the teacher made a joke, but just had to share that. So thinking while you're doing this, are there shapes that you enjoy? Are you doing squares and rectangles? So I'm going to use another piece of that paper. Maybe I'll just do it. Not too sure how I want to do it. I love squinting my eyes because it just, I see there's a bit of a triangle here, so I like this one. I like it there. Do I like it up there? No, I do like it down here. I did a collection titled As We Cloud Our Vision, and it's all about, there's a whole story behind it about my son needing to wear eye patches and when he was younger. And as we cloud our vision, sort of we see differently when we squint our eyes, and but I squint my eyes so often when I'm creating. It's so funny that just helps me see my artwork better, the composition. And you would think that squinting your eyes would make it harder to see, and it's just that whole incredible theory of our physiology and our anatomy. Okay. So again, I'm very pleased with how this is coming along, and I'm just looking at my papers and kind of randomly grabbing some different ones. I love using old sewing patterns. This one, the colors actually would look good in here. And this side's kind of cute too. You can see I already have some paint up there. My mom is a wonderful seamstress, and I find it complicated. She has tried to teach me. I really like this part here. And so I'm just gonna, I like the torn look. And then again, just squinting. I might just cover up the date here, because I'm gonna date my work anyways, probably. Sometimes I date it on this perforated edge if I think eventually I want to tear this off and recreate it into something new artwork. Sometimes I date it right on here, but I like the idea of using this. And that is really cute with this girl. That's so funny. I'll look at the other one. Maybe I want to use that one. I should go with my gut instinct, but let's just try it on as though we're trying on this cute little outfit. I'm squinting, and then here. Now I still, even though she's really cute, I'm gonna go with what I originally had thought. I'm sure I have another sewing pattern in there with the portrait or silhouette of the girl. And I'm not even using my parchment paper with the glue. I'm just kind of getting messy. And I'm purposely keeping some of this really pretty paper. And you could continue that pretty gold pattern anywhere in here. I'm just looking to see if I have my gold pen. You may find like the next day or so that your papers are coming up in the corners. The corners are often the trickiest, but you can just go back in and pull it up and get some more glue under there. And if you eventually are gonna wax or varnish your work, it will be sealed really well. I'm just gonna see if I have my gold pen. So I like to use this for gold line work. It's a really wonderful pen from Japan called the Uniball Signo. I buy these individually at the art store, so and what I'm gonna do, you see that I have a little bit, oh, I did want to tell you about this sheet. So if you don't have a book, and again, you can just do collage on any type of firm weighted paper. Ideally, 140 pounds and up is great. Cardboard is great. Look at things maybe that have come in the mail. Those cardboard mailers are probably really good. This was just collage over top of 98-pound paper, which is, I think, or it feels, yeah, this is 98-pound paper. And the purpose of all of this collage, and you can see I've been tearing it up, this was a massive sheet. And in the summertime, I was so excited because I discovered golden matte medium, and it did have a bit of an odor. So I decided to go outside and I grabbed sewing patterns and, again, this Tupperware of papers. And I was really inspired to practice mark making. And you can see I repeated that same gold pattern in there with the paper that I had bought, the sewing patterns. I love scissors. I have some, whoops, I have some writing in here that's illegible. That's another really fun thing that you can do in your work. This is so pretty. I really would love to almost tear that out of here. But what I was doing is, because I just wanted to play and experiment, I grabbed this large sheet of Canson 98-pound paper and I just went crazy. And now when I'm looking for kind of an interesting work, or say I have a wood panel I can just zero in on an area that I enjoy and cut it out and use it. So this is like a bigger version, more accessible than, of course, working out of a book. But I think working smaller when you're just getting into collage, even if it's just for relaxation, it's less overwhelming. And okay, I'm gonna go back and just gonna look at the pattern under here. It doesn't really matter, but it's just really beautiful gold line work. So I'm just gonna turn this and extend the line work out, and not being too perfect, kind of making it my own. And it's just about, you know, this process of experimentation, exploration, and play. And you will remember when it comes time to paint larger, or, you know, if you're looking for your own style, you will remember what you enjoyed with regards to mark making and supplies, what you enjoyed working with, what you found frustrating. And so you can just see I continued the pattern. And another thing that I like to do, if you're just feeling like you don't know where to start, if you have like, I mean, there's patterns everywhere, right? Like you can make your own pattern on a paper bag. I just realized I want to do the dot work on here. But another jumping off point that I really enjoy is I have quite a bit of washi tape, and I use washi tape, that Japanese, not so, it's supposed to be sort of, it's sort of a decorative tape that's not super sticky. It's one of those things you can kind of move around. So I'm just going to grab a piece and see. Where is it? I think I put one out. So this one's a good example. And so this decorative tape, you can get these at the dollar store nowadays. If you're just feeling kind of stuck, you can, I'll just put it up here. You can just put down something with a pattern, anything, and just hopefully it's a pattern that you enjoy. And then just right now I think, oh, this brown paper with, I had made my own stamps this past year, and you know, I think this neutral would look great with the busyness of this washi tape. You can also then, you know, if you like, for instance, gold in your work, you can kind of bring out the pattern and kind of like that, and just deciding, do you enjoy that? Would you continue it, or would you be like, nah, I don't really like it that much? It's just going with what you feel in your gut. And this is a process almost of problem solving and not really knowing it when you're doing it. I think as artists, as creatives, the more we can create art, or, you know, even if it's more for a hobby, maybe, you know, more like craft, the more we can do it, the better we get at problem solving, especially our own art, our own project in the future. And I am actually going to cover that part up, because for me, I just didn't like it. And this is kind of folded over, but I'll just unfold it. And this lino cut stamp that I had done, it reminds me a little bit of birds. And that was not what I was trying to make it, but I really like how it just was quite random. And then these little things kind of came out like, they reminded me a bit of, like this one looks like an apple, which I really like. I just feel like I'm gonna grab one of my little highlighters and making it orange. Also, it makes me think of like a little cat. Just with the way that this one turned out, I could just see it being like, oh, this is a big pen. I can use a smaller pen. It's a very funny little cartoon cat. That's the thing, is the more you do this, the more you see things, the more you see things you'd like to explore. You get to know what you love and what you don't like. I've been creating so much every day that I really get to know what I enjoy and what I don't. So, you know, just holding up, this is like I think this is like a deli paper. And, oh, you know what? I see some of my botanicals coming through here. So, where are we? There it is. So this is actually something I do want to save for my art poetry paintings, because I have been really excited about incorporating botanicals. This one, it's really hard to see, so, you know, I might just keep this in my collage today. And some of you are asking about, I've used different papers to get these gorgeous botanical prints, and I still don't really have a rhyme or reason process. I'm working it out, and eventually I will probably share my process. There's a lot of artists that use jelly plates and make their own painted papers and botanicals. I'd love to try dried botanicals. I have some dried botanicals that my mom had used in a flower press. I'm just a bit nervous because they're really dry and fragile, and they're those are more precious probably to me than other supplies. Whoops. Okay, there you go. I'm just trying to decide where do I want, oh, I know. So on the first page, I had a spot here, and I'm just gonna put that leaf down. And the cool thing is you can see how I just didn't like it in that position, kind of covering up the red and pink textured piece beside it, so I moved it. The benefit of a glue stick and matte medium is you still have some room to move after you've kind of tried it out. You can still pick it up and move it, and then gently wipe off the excess glue. I can kind of rub off, I can feel some of the glue. I can kind of rub it off with my finger. And let's just see where we are at. So I think probably, or anything else, I love this one. I feel like it'd be kind of fun to add in, you know, here you can see I repeated that brush mark with black paint, and it was very similar to what I was doing on the paper bag. I might just put this in, just trying to decide where I want to put it. And do I like this shape? I'm just squinting my eyes and seeing, I think I'm gonna cut it straight. And I kind of like it over here with those colors, and going that way is great. And then I might add another row underneath. And you know, I'm really glad I caught myself last evening, because part of me wanted to just create a whole bunch of brand new painted papers, because again, I get that dopamine, that excitement from that process of, for me, I love breaking a blank page. Like, I know for a lot of artists that can be an overwhelming thing, but I could just constantly start artwork. When it comes time to finishing it, that is more of a challenge. It's more of a process, a timely process, and just deciding if I want this in here at all. Might just put a little leaf up there. Oh, but yeah, I'm glad I caught myself, because here I'm almost getting re-inspired by painted papers that I otherwise would have just not revisited likely. I would just probably have kept them in the Tupperware and moved them around and maybe used a few for collage work. But because I do watercolor work and now I know how I like to implement painted papers into my watercolor, I don't really have the need to, at this time, make more and just build up that stash when, you know, I have so many. I often get sent a lot of painted papers from artists, which is fun, but it just, again, adds to my pile. I think it would be cool to exchange painted papers. You know how people exchange artist trading cards? I think it would be kind of neat to exchange those painted papers. Just kind of a cool idea. I'm sure people do that all the time. And I think this is kind of cute. I'm gonna just incorporate her posing in here. I like it down here. So in a way, what I'm doing with these papers, and I'm turning them into these mini artworks, these compositions, this almost like not a mind map with words, but like a visual map of choosing what I enjoy, cutting out shapes I like. You might like torn papers. Sometimes I like to have torn papers. You can see the tissue paper here. It's torn on this side and then it's straight here. And I do like how there's variety in a bit of both. I think I use a mix. Let's just look. I think I do more cutting out. You can see this is torn here, this watercolor paper, it's torn down here. So after you've put down your collage, just thinking about, you know, are there themes? Are there kind of trends with, say, for instance, do you kind of choose paper you enjoy? I really love this thin sewing paper. I love the paper bags. I really go for things that are easier to glue on. Do you always see the same colors? Do you use neutrals or black and whites, or do you just go with color? This is an example of, I had a painted paper, but then I stenciled over top, and then I think I'd used a spray ink, so it turned pink, and I think that's kind of a neat effect. So when I'm flipping through here, and eventually when I fill up more of this book, I'm so excited to revisit it and turn these into landscapes or bookmarks, or again, mount them on a wood panel. I'm just gonna see if I have a wood. Oh, I know. Well, I can show you. So these are little examples. These were just sort of practice. No, these are cradled wood panels. So I have painted the edge in bronze. And this though is not collage, but this was one of my mountain prints. So it was a 100% cotton rag giclée print that was printed by my printer here, Ken Chow. And I had glued it, so mounted it to the cradled panel. And then I did varnish the top and I embellished it. But this would be a great base for collage. So the other one, I just love these little panels. This was another one. I am just not finished the edges. I decided to do the edges in really fun, different colors. And this was my painting titled A Touch of Light. And the varnish didn't turn out great. This was, again, sort of a practice piece. Possibly I can glue over top of this if I sand it down and reuse it. But I really think the idea of, you know, zeroing in on, say, an area that you enjoy and cutting it out and mounting it to panel, what a great little gift or a way of finishing the work and, you know, possibly doing a series. There's so many options. So I'm going to go to, let me just see, I'm gonna actually go back to my art poetry deck and pull a card and finish up in about 4.5 minutes here at the hour and a half. And I really should, the cards I've pulled more recently, I should kind of tuck in somewhere because I tend to pull the same card. Okay, this is a great card. This is my art poetry painting that I had done titled Nighttime Gathering. And the words say gather inspiration when it finds you. So when you're out for a walk in nature and you see a beautiful sky or you see, you know, a pattern. For me, actually, it was just in my blog yesterday, I saw a gorgeous pattern and it was on a sewer grate, but it was so cool. And I thought, wouldn't it be amazing to take a big sheet of paper and a crayon with my son and pick up that pattern by scraping over that grate. And just, I stopped and I took a picture of the grate. So I was gathering that inspiration because it did find me. And normally it's easy to just kind of get lost in, well, for instance, just the direction you're going. And, you know, we all have such busy lives, but taking that time to stop, and if something like a flower or, you know, a wreath on someone's door, maybe a photograph, you know, that maybe a memory photo that you took a long time ago, just gathering all of that inspiration and holding on to it so you can tap into that when you are in that place of wanting to create. So I'm gonna just pull one more card again from my little frog deck because it's so cute. I can't wait to go through more of these cards. And this is definitely what I needed to hear today. I am allowed to rest without guilt. For me, I have underlying obsessive compulsive disorder, not in the way a lot of people know OCD. I don't talk about it a lot, but guilt does play into my life. It plays into my art, my creative life, and turning off the guilt can be really hard. I know that guilt is a useless emotion, but when you are dealing with, you know, these lifetime emotions and trying to sort them out and redirect yourself, it can be super hard. And I value my worth based on my productivity, and I know that, and I know that it is exhausting and it's not the way I want to live my life. And I think doing these videos helps me redirect that energy into something more positive, because I would never just sit down and say, do collage like this, but because I'm allowing myself, I guess, to rest, and I know that that is just what I need in my life right now. Oh, my neighbors walked by. It's so funny. I have a window view here, and I feel like I'm in a fishbowl as it gets late here in Calgary. But yeah, so I think what I want to say is give yourself permission to rest, because if you don't, it will catch up with you. And especially when you're doing something you love, or when it comes to your passion or your downtime when you're creating, you don't want to have any of those outside pressures on you, because it will take away from your love of what you're doing. It will take away from the joy of the process and those little moments, and it just does not feel good. So this is a card I should definitely put in my little wooden holder, and just know that rest is important, and you can't really be good for anyone else if you don't find that downtime yourself. So I just wanted to thank you all, because if it wasn't, I feel emotional, because if it wasn't for this community, I really don't know where I would be or what I would be doing. I just get so much joy. I appreciate all of the encouragement you give me. I really love doing videos. I'm trying hard to sort out the ergonomics. That's the hardest thing for me is, you know, I'm only 45, and I do deal with a lot of ergonomics, my back, and sitting for, well, today an hour and a half. So gonna learn how to find balance in that. If you have any good chair recommendations, I would appreciate it. Because I paint on a table looking down and have my phone over top of me, I do feel somewhat restricted with movement, and it's very different than how I would create on my own. I have the ability to tilt my table. It's just, it can be very complex. I know a lot of artists paint on canvas, they paint standing, but a lot of the work I do is also fine details. So if someone has a recommendation when you're sitting and you're kind of leaning forward and needing to stay within a certain circumference, I would just really appreciate any tips. I think someone said that there's a saddle chair, some kind of a saddle chair. I've tried several different chairs, but yeah, I'm just gonna I'm gonna leave the video there and just say I hope that this has inspired you in some way, and we will see you all soon.